Hey, this is Derek Murphy from creativity.com. Tonight it's about midnight and I'm in a chateau in the south of France with some other writers at a writing retreat. And I just finished a novel. It's the first solo project novel I finished for a while, and I'm going to upload it to the Kindle store. So this is a quick video. I thought I'd walk you through the process of what it looks like to take your manuscript, format it for Kindle, and then publish it on Amazon. So I basically have the novel done. It's not formatted yet. I'm going to go to that later. First, I'm just going to go through and kind of set up a new project. So I've gone to Kindle Direct Publishing, and the first page is Kindle eBook details. So I choose English, title, subtitle. You can put the series information and number later when you have a series and you want to link it together. And then possibly edition, author name, contributors, which is kind of up to you. And the description. In the KDP description, you can add HTML coding. So for example, here I've got my heading 1 tags or my bold tags. If you want to update your description later, it's actually easier to use Amazon's Author Central, but it doesn't allow you to do all of the extra formatting. So I try to keep it in here if I can, because it looks a little nicer if you can get those heading tags. You need to confirm that you have the publishing rights to publish your book, and then you can add some keywords. So technically, these keywords are just to help you get into certain Amazon categories. That's kind of how the system works, but that usually doesn't work so well anyway, and you can actually request Amazon to put you into up to 10 categories. So that's something you can't do on the dashboard. Later, after I hit publish, I'll go up, just up here, you can't see it, it's off screen, but to the help button, to contact support, and I will just tell them this is the link to my book. I want to be in these 10 categories, and they'll usually be pretty good about adding you. So in the meantime, these keywords can be something else. I'm going to try to focus on things that my readers are actually looking for. So genre keywords, if they're looking for teen or young adult, high school. Some of this stuff is like the topics of the book. There's genetic mutation, but people who search for genetic mutation probably aren't looking for my sci-fi science fiction book. It's more likely they're looking for dystopian or apocalypse, or even possibly like fantasy romance, even though it's not really that kind of book. Because this is a free place to put keywords, I can kind of broaden out a little bit. This one, I'm not even sure if it's a really good keyword right now, but I think there's some kind of a contest where if you entered that keyword, your Kindle published book will be entered into a possible publishing deal. I probably need to research and see if that's even a thing. I'm not really sure. Categories, I'm going to choose juvenile fiction, dystopian, and then fiction, thrillers, technological. If possible, you want these to be a little broader. So instead of like juvenile fiction, science fiction, and juvenile fiction fantasy, where they're a little similar, you want your bigger categories to be as far apart as you can be. I mean, you can't do like fiction and nonfiction, but like I've already got the fiction thrillers category, so I should go in a little bit of a different direction to catch a little bit more of an audience. However, again, this is the 2 that you're allowed to pick on the KDP dashboard, but you can request up to 10 and they will add you. So this isn't even a very big deal because it's easier to get the customer support to just put you in a category, except the one category that's kind of a pain in the ass. If I actually want this, even though I have juvenile fiction marked, it's a little complicated where if it'll show under teens or young adults, I think you have to set both juvenile fiction and also an age range, which would be, something like 12 to 17 or 18. I'm not going to worry about that now because I usually just publish it and then, ask KDP support to put me in the category I want to be in. Sometimes they will say if I request to get in a teen or young adult category, they will tell me I need to go back and change this a little bit to make sure that I put in those right categories. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I actually don't have the ability to put pre-orders on my books because a couple months ago, if you put up a book for pre-order on Amazon, but you don't hit the date, they will ban you from using pre-orders for a year. At least that was the case until this week, because there was a big change where Amazon now allows you to put out pre-orders up to a year in advance, and you can miss your publishing date by up to a month. So if I don't make my cutoff date, I can request a few more weeks and it's fine, and they won't give you a 1-year penalty. So I'm actually trying to get them to give me my rights back which they've been doing for quite a few of my author friends, because like the rules that got me kicked out, they don't apply anymore. It's not against the rules anymore. So trying to get that restored. It's not a big deal for now though, because this book is ready. So I'm going to go right on to save and continue. This one says digital rights management, enable yes or no. I choose no. This adds a layer of protection on your book. However, it's not really going to stop any pirates or people who are stealing the files. It'll only possibly annoy your actual readers who have bought your book, but they can't make it work on different platforms. So the general consensus for like the last 5 years or so from everybody I know is that it's better to check no here. And then we're going to upload the ebook manuscript and launch the cover creator. So I'm going to talk a little bit about formatting my file for ebook. So I write in Microsoft Word, so I'm going to show you what my Word file looks like. I'm not going to do anything fancy for formatting because with ebooks, it strips a lot of the stuff out anyway. Like I've used the Babus font for here for my title page, but once I upload that to Amazon or convert to an ebook, that is going to be removed. It'll remove the font because other people don't have the same fonts on their system, and it won't look as good. It'll probably look a little different. So ebooks have to look kind of simple and basic because readers need to have the ability to increase the font size or change the font to make it comfortable for them. So there's not that much you can do, but a couple of important things. When you're writing, I like to write in Microsoft Word, you have to highlight these chapter 1, chapter 2s, and then go to heading 1. And you can style this a little bit how you want, or make it bigger or smaller. And if it's simple enough, like this will probably look about the same in ebook. But you need to do that and make sure they're heading 1, because then it will build this navigation pane over here. So if you go to view and then navigation pane, you'll see kind of all the H1 tags. So this is also just a really easy way to outline or organize your book, and you can actually drag and drop these sections around. So even during like outlining or drafting your book, it can be really useful. I usually, like down here it says outline, when I get stuck I kind of go through and make a checklist. I'll also do something like notes or extra scenes or details or questions that I can very easily go back through and find. And then I add these stars here when I'm still writing this chapter, so that's kind of where I am. I need to clean up a couple more chapters, but it's mostly, I got to the end now, it's just kind of going back and adding a little bit of the detail, the description, consistency and continuity. And then I'll run it through Grammarly. I've done a test of both Grammarly and ProWritingAid, which are paid tools that you can get with a Word plugin. I find that Grammarly works pretty well. I'm a pretty clean editor, so by the time I get to the end, it's going to be pretty clean, but I'm sure I still have some typos. So I'll go through with Grammarly and probably find a dozen or so just to make sure I cleaned up as much as possible. And the ebook, you can add up here, I just have this brief title page, but you could also add the copyright page, which usually says something kind of like this. If I skip down, I'll add something there. This is something I just copied from another author. But it's pretty general. It kind of goes with everything. And then I would just go up here to layout and break that so it's on a new page. So that's pretty easy to do. The other thing that's really important, especially for an ebook, would be some kind of call to offer at the end. So I'm actually just going to copy this. I'll go down to the end of the book, and a call to action would be something down here, and I'm just going to call it a CTA, call to action, which means I want the readers to do something. So it could be, please go leave a review, which is generally a nice thing to ask. Let me go here to normal text. Leave a review, sign up to my mailing list, pre-order book 2. Generally, the more calls to action you have, the less conversion you will get. So you want to be, the most important thing for me would probably be getting them on my email list. I'd maybe put that first. The other thing that works really well is an author's note, which is kind of a little story about why you wrote this book, what this book means to you, which would lead into your call to action ideally. So I may say something like, I wrote this book when I was. This is a young adult techno thriller. So a lot of my books are based on mythology or travel because we travel a lot. This is the one that really isn't, but it's really into like body modification and body hacking, and it's interesting. So I would have to tell some little story about my personal anecdote. Hopefully that makes me interesting or endearing. That leads into why I love this book, why this book is really important. Thank people for reading it. But then I try to have some kind of call to action, like, I haven't written the sequel yet, but I've been working on this new thing, or I wrote a short story. If you don't have a book 2 up available already, it might be a good idea just to have like a bonus chapter. Maybe you can't write book 2 and put it up on pre-order quickly, which ideally you would be able to do that, especially now with a 1-year pre-order. It's a lot easier. And if they like book 1, they'll probably get book 2. So you could have something like, book 2 is coming, sign up to get updates. In the meantime, sign up on my email list and I'll send you this bonus chapter. Or, it could be removed scene. It could be like even a couple pages is a bonus chapter. So having something extra so that when people have finished reading your book, there's something good that they want and they're willing to give up or trade their email for, so that you can notify them in the future. I wouldn't have them follow you on social media or anything. You can do that after they've signed up for your list, but trying to get them on your list so that you can, hopefully share more content, more value with them, and they'll become fans, which is a whole different thing, communicating with your readers and turning them into fans. I have a lot of videos on that on YouTube. If you're not following me at Creativity, then you might want to, because I talk a lot about publishing and marketing and stuff. But anyway, this is something I haven't written yet, but I'm going to go back and add a call to action and a link to my newsletter and author's note or an author's story or something like that. I might show it to you before I upload it. I may not. One thing to keep in mind, however, is that, for example, if I link to Amazon anywhere, right now I'm just publishing on KDP on Kindle, but if I had a link to Amazon, like my Amazon profile or something like that, if I wanted to use the same ebook file and publish it on all the other ebook stores using something like Smashwords or Draft2Digital, which are ebook distributors, then those other stores wouldn't accept the ebook because it has links to their competitor, to Amazon. So you have to usually make like one version for Kindle or KDP, and then if you want to go wide and publish on other platforms, you can do that, as long as you don't sign up for Kindle Unlimited, which I'll also show you in a little bit. Kindle Unlimited is the 3-month exclusivity contract with Amazon. So that's probably the next step in our little process. But I wanted to show you kind of how the ebook can be made. What I can do at this stage is use one of the free tools I have up online, which looks like this. It's just a really simple ebook conversion tool. So you can choose the title, author, cover, file, and then just upload it, and it will convert it into Mobi and EPUB. So that works really well. I would usually use that if I was trying to make an EPUB version, because then I could edit the ebook version even more if I wanted to do some more fancy formatting and stuff. But I'm not actually even going to do that right now, because I know if I upload my Word file here in KDP, if I just upload the Word file, and if I've already set up all the headings like I want them. So here I've already got all these headings. These are the chapter headings that are going to show up. So I could have these as chapter 1, chapter 2, or whatever, but this is what's going to build the table of contents. In ebooks, there isn't really like the table of contents in the front of the book. So that's why I don't have one anywhere up here. Even in nonfiction, ebooks have its own internal system of navigation. So as long as you have these heading tags for your chapters and you can navigate around this way, then the ebook's going to work the same way. You don't have to add an additional TOC in the front. So because I'm just uploading this to KDP, I don't actually need to convert it into Mobi file and EPUB, because I'm not going to use the EPUB right away. And this is kind of like Of course, you want everything to be perfect, especially if it's your first book and your first time publishing. However, nothing's ever perfect. So even if you try really hard to get everything right, usually after you publish, people will send you some typos or people will ask you questions. You'll probably want to do a new release or an update pretty quickly, actually. So I usually know, I've done this quite a few times. I get it as clean as I can get it. I get it up so that people can start reading it, and then I'll find, I can fine tune it over the next week once people start giving me comments or I start seeing the reviews. If I like screwed something up, then I could fix it and upload a new copy. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not, spending a lot of time on the formatting or the design right now. Covers are kind of a whole different thing. I do have a lot of videos and a book about book cover design. If you look for DIYbookcovers.com, or even if you just search on YouTube for like how do I design a book cover, you'll probably find some of my resources. It's not something you can learn quickly and easily. I have tried to make a bunch of templates and cheat sheets and stuff to make it easier, but if you're making your own cover, it's probably not going to be good enough. However, I don't believe like if you don't have a budget for a book cover designer, and even if this is your first book, I was saying earlier today, it's very possible to spend too much money on your first book and hire the expensive cover designer and pay lots of money for editing. But if you don't have a book that has an audience, or you haven't figured out how to position the value of your book and communicate it to the right audience in the right way, then people aren't going to buy it anyway. So I don't like people to risk a lot of money on a book that's not going to sell. And you kind of need to fix those issues while you're writing the book, or at least once you finish the book. You have to know who your audience is and what kind of book covers appeal to them before you can make your own book cover. So you want to focus on, what's going to appeal to your audience and communicate to your audience what this genre is. You don't want it to be too weird or cross-genre or not specific. Every element on a cover design has a purpose, and if you don't know the rules of cover design, even if you hire a designer, it's possible to get something that may look pretty but doesn't sell your book. So I do recommend grabbing some of my guides. I haven't even used the cover creator for a while. I might try it again soon. I'm not going to do that now. The cover creator's never really worked very well. It may be able to make something very simple to get the spine and the back right, but it's really like it's a solution, but it's very doubtful you can create a cover that's actually good enough to sell books with their tool. I have better cover creator tools online, or you can even use something like Canva and probably do a better job of it. The tricky part is with paperback, but I'm not doing the paperback now. I'm just uploading cover. For covers, I always do 6:9, which is the common book size, at 300 dpi, which is 1800 pixels by 2700 pixels. So that's the size for the covers that I make. I'm going to upload my own file. I've already made a cover. Oops. So this is actually the art that I got from an artist a year or two ago, and then I added the fonts and text myself. Sometimes it's possible to find really great illustrators who may not be cover designers, or artists who aren't necessarily great with the text for book cover design. You kind of have to shop around and find somebody who's good at everything, or maybe just know who's good at one thing or the other thing. Sometimes you need a team, and it depends on the price range for cover design also. Sometimes maybe it's cheaper to buy the art. If you look on DeviantArt and you find something really good, you might offer the artist $100 or $200 for the use on a book cover, and some of them will agree, some won't. And then you could find someone who's really good with typography to add the text. Otherwise, cover design ranges from, I think, an average of $500. There are designers who charge quite a bit more, but I think there are quite a few good ones that are around the $500 range. And right now there's a lot of newer ones that are cheaper because they're starting out. And there's all these really interesting new resources now with Daz 3D, or people are creating stock photography just for cover design now. I think there's 5 different sites. I think if you search Google for like best stock photography sites for book covers, you'll find one of my blog posts where I talk about some of the boutique stock photography sites where you can find art for your book cover design. Anyway, I got this book cover done. I'm going to upload it here. spent about 20 minutes going through the book one more time just to clean up a few things. One of the things I'm going to do, I still have a lot of comments over here, so before you publish, you have to make sure you go up here to delete all your comments. One of the things I'll do is save a version with like all the extra notes and the notes myself. A lot of this stuff is like more details I'd like to go back and add later. I'll save a copy with all this stuff before I also save a copy that cleans it all up. So I'm going to go up here to delete and go to delete all comments in the document. I'm also going to run it through Grammarly, which is my software of choice. It's a Word plugin to just look for extra errors. Of course, you can also just use the check document, the basic word check and grammar check that's built into Word.